The other thing that I always think about here is if you just go to the connect button on Facebook, and you look at this, I go in here and I look at, as people are talking, there's Elizabeth at E. Wiley. Where are you, Elizabeth? Are you here? Where are you? There you go. Hi. Thanks for the tweet. Now, how would we, and we're all friends here, we're all together here, we're going to talk about how do we improve what we're doing. First of all, I want to give a big shout out to Hanson that there are more people at this school putting how proud they are to be alums of this program than almost anywhere else I've seen, and that's kudos to the school and to the program.
Kudos to our students like Elizabeth.
Though you'll want her now to change that to @ComLeadGrad, right? That's what you want her to do.
I would love that, but it's up to her.
But how do we improve Elizabeth's Twitter presence? What's a huge, not mistake, but how do we make it better? Free consulting you're getting here, Elizabeth. What's missing? Phone number? Email? Something much more basic. Last name, people. How about this? Last name, right? Many people, forget to put the last, well, not that many forget to put their last name, Elizabeth, but many people, I had a friend, let's say his name is John Smith, very famous journalist, getting lots of tweets, lots of followers, but nobody could find him on Twitter. Why? Because he had taken his John Smith, smushed it together, that was his Twitter handle, and he smushed it together in his name as well. You will not be found because Twitter does it as natural language search, and they look for John Smith, not John Smith. Everybody understand that? So work on your handle, your name. About the handle, one thought I have is you can always change it. At Nick Kristof used to be NY times Kristof, and it changed, and he got all his 100 million followers all followed him over, no problem. But you should think about what is the best possible handle that you can have, what represents you really well. A lot of people use underscores. They're perfectly okay, but some people say they're not okay because people will always forget your underscore. So I'm not here to disappoint you if you have an underscore, but that means you have to work that much harder. You have to be that much more semi-obnoxious about the underscore, right? Also, it's very hard when you're live tweeting somebody because the underscore takes 3 clicks on an iPhone. I don't know on Android how long it takes to do that, but that's extra work. And that's why I don't recommend it. But again, don't fall to pieces if I say that. I'd had somebody at one of these sessions started almost crying because of that. So do things that make sense for you, not for me or because somebody else tells you. All right? But look at this. I liked what she's done here. And you can have some personality. At the end of my first time I taught my class, Hanson, one of my students came up to me and said, at that point I was a dean, and said, Dean Sri, great class, but you have ruined social media for me. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, Facebook was this fun place to hang out, do whatever we wanted, and now it's another place, you old fogies. She said, you old people tell us what to do and how to behave and watch what we say. And I was upset, but then I realized this is my new mission in life. I'm here to ruin social media for you. Turns out it's not a good consulting title, but it works when you're already here. So I would say, look what she's done. She's got some personality. I would love to know what she's doing. Now, you don't have to answer. Let's presume for a second that she is in between gigs. That's fine as well. Say what you do so that people will hire you. And here she says grad news junkie or whatever, grad and then news junkie. But think about being very clear about what it is you do. And I think that, and then that photograph, is it a picture you took, Elizabeth? Yeah, that's nice. That's a great opportunity there with that. So let's go in and look. While we're speaking, 15 more of you mentioned me and are participating. So you're looking at that and people coming in from various places.
Sure, I guess some of this, Matt, depends on what you're using the platform for, right? If Elizabeth is not really seeing this as a professional platform, but actually this is the way she engages with friends and whoever else, it's just fine. I mean, Facebook for me is very social and personal that way. But if she wants to use it as part of her brand, then yeah, some of what you're saying is accurate.
He's being very diplomatic. He's saying, you shut up.
I've never put my telephone number nor my email address
on
Twitter.
But I will just say that you're absolutely right. And what I'm talking about are general guidelines. But we're moving into a world where social media is no longer just kind of a fun thing and is going to be more of what you're doing, especially as you're building your brand out there. Next here, if you look what I go under my followers, this is what I do. I go in and then look at people here, and you think about how many seconds you have before people decide. Now look at Rory. I'm not going to ask, but no, there's nothing there about her, right? I may want to follow her, but I don't have the time. Look at Heather now. Look how deep that is. Look at Randy. Is Randy here? Look how nice with an email address and Seahawks fan. Look at how many more Look at Jonah Kai. Is Jonah here? Well, there's Jonah, right, from Tagboard. Look how nicely they've put it in. Here's Rebecca Perry. A lot of people here from Seattle. Melissa is going to work on her bio. Right? Do you see when I have 30 seconds to decide? Not because I'm important, but that's just the way it is. Some of you work in television. You ever see a news director look at on-air tapes, resume tapes? 10 seconds and you're out, right? So you've got those 10 seconds. Let's put that in so that people understand what that is. And again, you look at Maria. She's having some fun with what this is. Authenticity junkie, 1/3 of the Serdi Vella's household, right? You can have personality. I'm not saying you can't have any personality in there. And my other Twitter thought is that whenever you tweet, spend those 3 to 6 minutes and tweet as short as you possibly can, meaning leave 10, 15 characters over so that when people retweet you, if they don't do the native retweet versus the quote retweet, which I'll explain in a second, you have a chance at getting it right. So my own, one way I'm very different from all the cool kids on Twitter is I very rarely use the native retweet. You all know what the native retweet is, right? Where you go in and you take the tweet like this, and you hit one button, and it tweets it to all your followers here, right? If I do this. Everybody see that? I almost never tweet like this. And the reason I don't tweet like this is I have a lot of new people on Twitter who follow me, and people are confused. Like if I tweeted this, they were maybe saying like, I don't follow Jenny, who is that? And it's because they don't understand that. So I always prefer to cut and paste and do the manual retweet where you're RT and the thing. So that's just my thing. I also want to give a reason why I'm doing it. So I'll say like, amen, or +1, or I agree completely when I retweet somebody, because you want to give it some context, just like you do. It'd be as if you might have these friends who forward articles within the office. The best ones are who put a line of context at the top of the email. Not just FYI, and then you're like having to read the whole thing to understand what the context is. But again, the cool kids do not do this. The cool kids just RT all day long. But let me show you a secret thing why I believe Twitter itself does not like the native retweet, even though they push it like crazy. Watch this. When I go in here, you can take this person, right? And Jenny, are you here, Jenny? Oh, Jenny, hello. But look at this. I believe that they don't like the native retweet, even though they push it. Look here, turn off retweets. So I could, if Jenny was doing a lot of those, I could just turn it off because it's too much noise, right? As it's hard enough for people to see the stuff I'm posting that I don't want it blocked because I'm doing too much of it. Why would Twitter build that in as a feature if they didn't think this is potentially a problem? Neil.
One point, when you look at someone's tweets and you see their timeline, what they're posting,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All their branding, their icon,
Mm-hmm.
full screen, or they're mixing it up and you're seeing that they're sharing other people.
Right.
Any thoughts on that in terms of branding?
I think it's great to mention other people a lot and to mix that up. So a lot of things that I sound like I'm prescribing one thing is, I think what you're saying is to mix it up is good. What Hansen said earlier, people are going to take a look at your stream. I look at people's streams to figure out who they are and what kind of person they are. If I'm hiring, I look at their Twitter stream. And one of my co-teachers at Columbia is a woman who has been the first social editor of the New York Times. It's a woman named Jennifer Preston. And I urge you to follow her on Twitter. And I mention name check her, please. And Jen has this great line. She says, "Show excellent judgment on Twitter." Show excellent judgment. Beautiful line, right? That people are looking at you, especially I know there are students in the room or you're looking for work. I'm looking at this and saying, you're going to do this under my branding in 2 days if I hire you. What are you saying on there, right? And Jen does a fabulous job as a journalist and as a social media person. And she uses it to, and look at this, tips. She's giving you her email address right there at the New York Times. She wants to be found, and she participates and does a lot of that stuff. When people look at the Twitter account of hers, they all focus on the wrong number. Everybody looks and says, oh, I want 83,000 followers. Is it better to have 83,000 followers than 200 followers? Maybe. And we should all aspire to that. But look at the other numbers, much more interesting to me, that she tweets a lot, and she's following a lot of people. I'm not saying you have to follow 3,000 people, But I'm saying you are not following enough. If you're following 1,000, there are 50 more people you should be following. If you're following 20, there are 50 more people you're following. And what I mean by that is there's so many interesting people out there that you're not following. So be open-minded to getting new followees in addition to getting new followers. And I promise you, I'll tell you how to get more followers. But think about this, that don't obsess about the 83, obsess about the other numbers. And I'm not saying randomly just post a lot. The other thing that Twitter does, that a lot of the cool kids do, is that they post a lot of things that say, at Jenny, thanks. At Johnny, thanks. At Hanson, thanks. You've seen that, right? Where you come in and you're like confused. What is this conversation? So the cool kids do that. I don't do it. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but I just don't do it. If you're a verified account, they have this nice thing where you can turn off all the replies so that you see only the straight tweets like this, right? Her other items are turned off that way. But there's some great people to follow. I recommend you tweet at Elena Zach, who is at the Wall Street Journal. And she is, look at this, what an interesting tweet she shared. Interested in social media and journalism, the New York Times and BBC College are co-hosting a summer social workshop, and you can see that on here. And at Elena Zach. And look at, again, she's using newspaper. She's at the Wall Street Journal, and she does a very good thing. And look at the personality. Head in New York City, heart in London, and there's her Gmail address, right? Be findable, yes?
See how she has a different way of displaying her email address? Isn't that a better way to do it? The other ones, aren't they inviting spam calls?
Yeah, there's a lot of spammers. Seriously saying, putting at and doing all that, you can do that. Quite frankly, if you're on Gmail, the spam filters are pretty good. So I don't worry about it as much as I used to. You're right, the harvesters are a problem. But you could spend all your time worrying about it or just moving along. And so if you're more comfortable, absolutely, please do that. But I don't worry as much about it. I want people to be able to click and find me right away. Let's go with another couple of Twitter tips. I'll open it up to the audience. If you have a Twitter tip, this is a chance to just get it in there. Anyone? Twitter tip? Yes?
No, I was just going to say Brian
Stelter. Yeah.
I tweeted to him and said, sorry to wake you up. Sree's talking to you about on the West Coast. And he actually replied back saying, I'm still awake, and so we've been having a conversation now.
He's amazing what he does, where he's able to write A1 stories, but also do social, and he does it very, very well. So tweet at him and say, go to bed or something. Say, Sree says go to sleep. We need you rested for his book tour. I hope he comes out here when he's doing the book tour. Any questions or comments? So I'm going to...
A question way at the back.
Sure. Sorry. Yes, hi. So what she's talking about is that you go in here, and then I can just hit favorite, and it's a way of like, hey, I'm thinking about you kind of thing, right? It's this new way in which you can, what I call low-level kind of source maintenance, or if you're a fundraiser, it's a low-level, like keeping in touch with donors. And so you just hit favorite once like that. And when you go under connect, you will see when people have hit favorite on things you've done. And you go in here, and you can easily see it. Here's Cynthia Asaurus. That's hilarious. Cynthia, are you here? Yeah, there you are. She's Cynthia Asaurus, right? And she's having a whole conversation here with Brian Stelter. Look at that. Thanks for the tweet. And she says, you deserve it. And Sree says, go to sleep. Let's see if he responds. Like they're having the side conversation here on Twitter. And the reason I love name checking is that he's in bed in New York, and we pick him up and put him inside the Lyceum in the hub at the University of Washington. If you took Sal Khan, who's just like hanging out in LA, you drag him into the University of Washington by his collar, and that's a lot of fun to do. So that's why I encourage you to do that. And I don't think we're still trending, but we could just go in and check that out if you just go in here and check that. Another tip I have is please use your social media lists, and that is use your Twitter lists in better ways than you're using it now. There's a lot. Oh, look at this. We're still trending. We're the #1 topic in Seattle, right? Bates Motel was promoted. So here, Hanson, would you mind taking a picture of that and sharing with us? Look, we beat out #single because. You know how hard that is to do? And Venezuela Somos Todos. I don't know what that is, and I don't know who these other people are, but it's hard to beat the basketball stuff. But here we've done that, right? And you have done that. That's a lot of fun. And that and $2.50 will get you in the New York subway if you do that, right? Or what is a cup of coffee in Seattle? Like $10? Okay. A reminder that you can go into your into Tagboard and see all your tweets coming up there, and you can go into Seesaw and see your tweets coming up there as well. And these are different tools that are doing that. Okay. Any more Twitter questions? Otherwise, you're ready to go to Facebook. Yes. Craig, give me your Twitter handle. Cray S. Bauer. You should all know he's award-winning travel writer, lives here in Seattle, runs a big meetup that he does, right, and other things. Cray, C-R-A-I, S. Bauer, B-O-W-E-R. Go ahead.
You spoke before about repeating tweets.
Yeah.
You read an article.
Yes.
And also about the optimal time.
Yes, thank you. Poor guy has heard all these jokes and everything before. But he's so nice to come out again. So let me just tell you what he's talking about. Absolutely right. When you tweet is as important as what you tweet. And what that means is thinking about the time zones of the different things. I do a lot of work in Asia, South Asia. I will tweet at 2 a.m. New York time, prime time in South Asia. And so thinking about that, and there are some tools that can really help you do cool things. There's a tool called Social Flow. It's a very expensive tool, but if you're a business, you want to be thinking about it. What you do is you load up your tweets on Social Flow, and it will tweet them out according to when your audience is ready for it. Think about that, right? It will listen to your audience and say, people are likely to be interested in this, and at that moment, they will tweet it out. It's pretty cool. And Hootsuite also has a feature like that, but Social Flow is like the strongest of those tools. And so thinking about when you tweet is important. And the other point he brought up, do not be shy about retweeting something. Right? Remember, most people have missed it. So what do? I will tweet something in the morning, retweet it in the afternoon. Not every tweet. All the important items that you've written, those are the ones I would retweet. And I might pull out a different nugget each time. And, you know, Cray writes these like big cover stories in travel magazines. It's filled with things he could be tweeting. Don't be shy about that. Right? You want people to see your content, be semi-obnoxious about it whenever you can. Questions about that? Yes.
Not that specifically.
Okay.
What about, you were going to mention Bitly.
Yeah. So we'll come to Bitly in a second. Now I want to show you this really cool tool that's not public yet. But what you can do is go on, if you want to sign up for this, there's a section where it says, like, how you found out. You say friend of Sri, and they'll give you priority access for this. Okay? So what is this tool? You say, what's so great about this? I had a problem. I had a workshop in Seattle, and I wanted to tweet everybody who was in Seattle. And I could have just done a Twitter search and tried to find everybody in Seattle who I knew. The problem with that is it's a lot of work, and then I have to mention each of them and say, please come. Instead, as some of you discovered, I did an amazing thing, which was I went in there, and I was able to instantly make a list of everybody who follows me who lives in Seattle, and with one email, write to all of you, with one direct message, write to all of you. It is the most awesome kind of Twitter geekiness that you can think about. So here, let me show you what I mean. So I go in here. So this is called OneCube. And you can say, hey, at OneCube, we're talking about you. And this shows you like your time zones, where you are, what are the words that are trending among your followers, what is your follower gender, right? You can see all that. But that's not the interesting stuff. The interesting stuff is here. Watch this. I go under search. Monica, give me your last column. What was it about? Or a column.
It was about email signatures on your phones.
Okay, so that would be for people who are interested in technology, right, maybe, or social or tech.
Mobile, social.
Mobile
yeah,
or tech.
email.
So look what I can do. In the bio, I can go in and put mobile, right? Let's say mobile. And then I hit search. And then look what happens. It pulls up for me a list of 513 people who've put mobile in their bio. Okay? And then I can create save to list. But also I can go here and look at location or friends, and this is based on how many followers they have and things like that. I can say has email, doesn't have email. oh, look at this. I can say has email, so I could email them, but I don't want that. I'm going to say select, has social links, time zone, and then I just say save to list. And this list is going to be select, use search results. And then I'm going to say create a new list called mobile interest, right? And then I hit save and go to lists. And here are all the lists. I have a Bangladesh interest, a China interest, 94 people, humor list, mobile interest, 513, Seattle folks, 135. Then all I do is send message. Everybody watching this? Or wait, where's mobile? Send message. And I type in the message, and it goes to everybody via direct message. Is that cool? That is awesome. It's a little scary. But it works. Now, it's not spam because these are all people who are interested in it. So the key is how you write it so it doesn't look like one of those malware DM spam things. So the first thing I write is, hey, and you can put their first name. Like mail merge, you can say, hey, at Sri, this is not spam, right? This is Sri writing from Seattle. And I know you're interested in mobile. You might want to check out my column. Everybody understand that? And that's what it does. And it's until you actually use it, you won't understand the power of this thing. Look at what happened here. I did this for Sreeattle. Look at all of you, and this is what you guys did. Look at this number here, right? You can see, I don't know if you can see here, potential reach, 346,000 people, 43 clicks, total clicks, and then I click in here, and then I can see who posted it the most and who had the most influence. So those are the kinds. Is there somebody named Jamesian here? I saw that she had done a lot on this. So you can kind of activate different people at different levels on this, right? I wrote to somebody, humor. I wrote 11 people, and I got 7 people to open that tweet. So this is a new world. We talk about trying to reach everybody, Moni. We're now trying to reach one person at a time. We call this narrow casting, right? Everyone see the potential, even though you're not going to use it. You understand the value of this and potentially what you could do. This is why I'm here to tell you that Mama lied. Mama said don't label people. And I'm here to say put everybody in a list, right? You must put people in Twitter lists. And one of the nicest things you can do is create a list called Journalism Heroes or People I Admire, right? And then just put them on that list. And they love being told they've been added to the Journalism People I Admire list. And one of the things that I think about is you've got to build these networks when you don't need them so that they're there when you need them. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, next Twitter tip I have for you is, and I'm sorry that my face is on this thing. You can see I'm next to Read, Write, Web, Mashable, TechCrunch. I love this, and I don't have a logo, so they put my big face on it. How many people use Triangulate? Everybody should use it. So finally, you're like, one useful thing, Sri, 2.5 hours later. What is this? This will change how you think about Twitter. My idea about Twitter, one of my ideas about Twitter is let's find our most influential people. Remember, I promised you this, that I'm going to show you your most influential followers. And part of it is based on how many followers they have, right? So I'm going to go in here, put in @Sri, and I'm going to hit retrieve. And when I do that, it will pull up a list of my most influential followers. And I tell people, I will gladly give up 30,000 followers today if you promise me these 100 people will never leave me, right? Why? Because any influence I have is not because of me, but because of these 100 people. So whenever anybody asks me, Sri, how do I get more followers? I say, that's fine, but let me show you a more important metric for you and for your bosses when you run a company site. Look at this. My top 100 followers have how many followers themselves? 54 million followers, right? That's the power of social media, that it's all in the network effect. So Google, Mashable, Huffington Post, AP, there's Shashi Tharoor, some of you know, is a big politician in India. The Today Show, Craig Brown, PhD, has 1.5 million followers on Twitter. And then this is where I pause. You see 2 people there? Nick Kristof and Ann Curry. Every time I tweet, I think of Ann and Nick. And I say, is this going to bore Ann and Nick? Are they going to unfollow me? And you'll say, Sri, God, that's what a loser you are, right? but I need Anne not to leave me, right? You can tell Anne that. Sri's thinking about you all the way out here, or Nick, right? This is really important. If you want to have, you have to build that network when you don't need it so that it's there when you need it, right? So you're always thinking, how can I do this? So part of it is you want to print out this list and keep it on your desk so you're thinking about these people. But more importantly, it shows you who's not following you. Does everybody get that? It gives you a list of who's not following you. So that's aspirational. Who should be following you? And you can find out. The other thing you can do is you can tweet and retweet and favorite some of these people more often than you might other people. Because these are your most influential followers. You want to remind them, I exist, right? You're following me, and for a good reason. And then you see like Kara Swisher or Barka Dutt, who is like India's Christian Amanpour, is following me, right? She's a former student of mine. But you've got to be thinking about this. You know Kara Swisher, at Kara Swisher. Tell her we're talking about here, up here. One of my other ideas is the first time someone hears from you should not be an ask. Everyone understand that? Right? Too often in journalism, sources, PR people, everybody asks for something when they first contact you. What if we turn that around and you contact people when you don't need them? And I don't say write a letter, just favorite them, just follow them, just tweet at them. You're not asking for anything. 6 months from now, when you want something, you're able to do that. So, Moni, any thoughts on, does this trigger any thought here for you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd be interested to run the tool and see who those followers are. It's almost, it feels like cheating. It does. It feels like you're hacking.
It's a one-night stand, so it's okay.
You know, yeah. It feels like you're hacking into something that has always been so that the things that are obscure have been obscure and kind of for almost a reason, and we've kind of assumed, well, you know, you get a direct message, that person really wrote it to you, and so I'm kind of like, kind of hacking these structures a bit, and so that part's a little scary. It's like what happens to those structures,
right?
But it's very intriguing.
So this is one of the people who follows me. He has 118,000 followers, but he is taking a 4-week class with me at Columbia. He's an Italian journalist. He's a rock star, right, at Sreeattle. Tell him that we're following him here. And I asked him in the class, I said, why are you paying all this money and taking a class? And he said he wants to be a better student of his own tweets and be better on social media. That should be an aspiration for us. And he's at Sreeattle on Twitter. And he's great, and he just does fantastic stuff, but that's one of the things that we have to kind of think about.
When are you going to get your blue check mark?
It's not that big a deal, so I haven't tried.
I think I made you blush.
So, you can check him out if you're interested in Italian stuff. If you're going to do something with Italy, follow him today when you don't need him so that he's there when you need him. Yes?
This is a good point to ask the question. What is your take on...
2 languages? Yes, very important question, and I wish there was a clear-cut answer. We are just getting started in all this. I would urge you to be very careful about mixing languages beyond a point. What I would do is say very clearly in the subject line, in your bio, tweeting mostly in Italian, or when there's a big event in English, something like that. I'm not saying that's what he does, but you can think about that. The other thing is a lot of people create a second account. Like they'll do James Smith and then James Smith EN for English. And they'll say in their Twitter bio, tweeting only in Spanish, but when there's a breaking news or something important, I will tweet in English on that account. So just follow it, don't expect anything, but if anything pops up, that's huge in my part of the world, right? So that's one way to think about it. But there is no answer, and it is almost impossible to maintain 2 accounts very well, because it's just too much work. And you have to decide where you are playing. And he's playing in La Stampa in Italy, so he needs to be there even though he's in America. But he does great, great tweets. Questions? Are we ready to move to Facebook? Yes? Kind of stunned silence. All right, we're going to move to Facebook. I don't care. All right. So we're going to talk about Facebook here. And this looks like the old Facebook because it is. The new Facebook hasn't been, I don't know what that is, but... Mitra Khalida is at Mitra Khalida. She's former Saja president, godmother of my children, and a fantastic journalist. She's at Quartz. Are you familiar with what Quartz is? She's the opinion editor of Quartz. Quartz is the new Atlantic publication, very social. and their content pops better than almost anybody else. So Quartz, they're QZ.com.
Superb user interface as well on the browser.
Very, very cool. So please check that out, @Quartz. So I told you that there's new stuff coming to Facebook that's really important, and it's very exciting and very scary. The exciting part is that you see this picture size, it's going to become even bigger. The default on all of these pictures, they're going to blow out like this. This picture is going to come out at least this much bigger, right? Every photograph is going to be bigger. That's why you're going to take better pictures. You're going to use more photographs. You're going to do that. The other change that's coming is that you can pick to see only photos, only music, only news. There's certain kind of news feeds that you can get that you can't get today. So those are some of the things that are happening. But what I want to show you and what you all need to know about is this thing called graph search. How many of you have gotten it already? You should all get it by getting on the wait list for it, and I will tweet out how to get it later tonight. But here is what you can do. I can go in here and say friends who live in Seattle, right? And boom, it just pulls up these nice big pictures. Look at this. I have fewer than 100 friends who live in Seattle. I think some of them are here. Neil Parekh sitting over there. I don't know if the others are. Atima is in in New York. Is Heather here?
Yes, she is.
Where is Heather? Heather.
That's my wife.
Heather's sitting right there. But this is where it's their son. It's their son's picture there. But that's fine. This is how she's using it, and that's perfectly okay. There's Wilson Rothman. Where are you, Wilson? Wilson's from MSNBC, or NBC News. You see him there, and you can see a lot of people are here. So one of the things I did yesterday was email each of you individually by going in here and hitting message, right? So you thought I spent a lot of time thinking about you. I did. And that's where, Moni, I'll disagree that the act of hacking I was thinking about them. It wasn't like it was a general spam. It was a thoughtful spam. But here, now look at this. My friends who live in Seattle, Washington, and, I go in here again. My friends in Seattle, Washington, who are single. Watch this. And you know that if you're married like I am, you want everybody to be married or in a relationship, so you spend a lot of time like this. But then, look at this. I want to change this to say, instead of my single friends, I go in here and I change this to say, people who are single who live in Seattle, Washington. And that's going to pop up thousands of people. This is the biggest Match.com you've ever seen. Look at this. These are not people I know. And here, look what I'm going to do now. I'm going to come here, John Peake, some of you might know him. I can send him a message. And I say, hey, John, meet Sophie. Not yet, is it? Well, if I really cared about this, I would do this, right? Carrie, meet John, whatever. So when you look at this is, as a marketer, as a journalist, it's wonderful for stories. You're working on things, you can do this. But if you are, so this is the way I look at it. If you're a journalist or a marketer, this is super exciting, right? But if you're a human being, and that's usually not the same thing, not always the same thing, it's a problem. Right? It's a real problem. Look at this. People who are single who live in Seattle, Washington, and like the Seahawks. How scary is this, right? Seahawks. And there you go. And it's coming up. Oh my God, right? That's the right reaction to this. And I can go in here. More than 1,000 people who are single like the Seahawks. But then I'm going to go in here and I want to see only the men. Right? And I want to see if any of them have ever worked at Microsoft. Look at this. Employer. I can go in here and look at this. At Microsoft. Here we go. Here are all the single male Microsoft employees who like the Hawks and live in Seattle. Look at those handsome men. Look at that.
I'm going for Nathan.
Questions from anybody? Is this horrifying? Okay, let's do a poll. Look around you. Who's excited about this? Who's horrified about this? Who's both? Right, there you go. Yes. This is a new thing, yeah. This is graph search, it's called. Graph search. Yes?
I think some of the horror might fade away if you say that this is public information. If you don't know the people, you will not be able to see anything about them, which wouldn't come up in an individual search anyway.
But I don't know these people.
Yeah, I know, but if you looked at their profile,
Yeah, this is all public information. You're right. You're right. I mean, this is what Facebook was doing all this while, collecting all this information, and that's what they're doing. Let's do a couple of quick questions. We have a lot of other ground to cover, folks. Yes? Go ahead.
so if you would set your privacy settings, if you just find friends, it's still going to do this.
Well, what Facebook wants you to do is have as much public stuff for your status. I mean, your status updates you can still control, but the main stuff is still, your basic profile is no longer private, is what I understand. Anybody know better? That you could make yourself invisible in Facebook. You cannot do that anymore, is what I understand. That's what you call CYA when you're not sure. I believe that this is the case. Somebody answer me here or find out. Look it up. And Moni, what do you think?
I'm not 100% sure about that.
But you've heard that, right? That's
Yeah.
what's happening.
This is why I don't have my birth date, my location. The only thing I have in my Facebook profile is that I'm married to Heather. That's it.
Right.
I refuse to give anything else away.
Well, you're a very lucky man. By the way, they have 2 wonderful children, and this is date night for them. How horrible is this?
It's a menage a trois with Sree.
Yes. Shh. Right. Sure. Right. Absolutely. But what you can do is, these are all like signals you can use, right? And you can guess most people's email address. If they work at a company, you know the name, you know the style. Like, CNN is all first dot last at Turner, first last at CNN. There are ways you can, if you're a reporter, these are ways in which you can get around that. And that's why I'm showing it to you. But I also wanted to scare you a little bit. But if you work for Theo Chocolate, right, you can go in here and single male Microsoft employees who like Theo Chocolate is now right there and listed for better or worse, or better and worse. Okay, let's keep going here. We're going to pick it up a little bit. Facebook is becoming more and more like Twitter in a variety of ways. One of them is, look at what they're doing now. Now they have this concept of the followers. What was it called before? Subscribe, right? And this is all a lot of this is driven by a former student of mine named Vadim Lavrusik. On Twitter, he's at Lavrusik, but on Facebook, he's at Vadim. Facebook.com/Vadim. Follow him. He's terrific on this. He's the Facebook program manager. And one of the things he runs on Facebook is called a group called Journalists Plus Facebook. Anybody seeing that? You should all be on that page. It is so good. So you just go into Facebook, and he runs that. So you can just go in here and do Facebook Plus Journalists. You see this? And you'll get so many great Facebook journalism tips on there. And you'll find it very, very useful. And 512 of my friends have liked that. And even if you're not a journalist, you will find a lot of tips about what's working and what's not. And there was a time when we'd encourage people to have both a Facebook page and a profile and a business page, right? He killed his business page to just focus on this. And he says it's better to do it, and this is the way he works, is build your Facebook personal page and then choose whether you want to make something public or not. And that's how you can do it. So let's look at mine. Mine's Sreenet, right? You can come in here and you'll see, like, I posted something here, and then people are liking it, posting it, sharing it, etc. A couple of thoughts on this. Here, it's uncanny with this that it knows, like, it'll often post from that close friends list, and it'll pull people off here and do very interesting things with this here. There's a guy named Tony Ramirez. He had a byline in the New York Times for many years. He's great on Twitter. He's at Hildy Johns. Anybody remember Hildy Johns? Who's Hildy Johns? She was the character in Front Page, the old movie, and the Cary Grant. Was it Cary Grant film? Cary Grant and something Russell. What Russell? Okay, doesn't matter. But at Hildy Johns was her name. Anyway, so you can follow him on Twitter or connect with him here. The most important part of this is that every time you post something, you now have choices, right? When you post, you can say public, friends except acquaintances, only me, oops, sorry, only me custom. And I urge you to think about this. People laugh. They say, what is only me for? Why would you ever use that? I use it every day. How? When you join services now, apps now, what do they have? They have a thing called who should you connect with Facebook on? And always set it to only me, so that if it starts posting, only you see it. So anytime you sign up for a service now, almost always they're using just Facebook Connect as the connection service. Have you noticed that? So that's very important. The other thing I would say is that we all need to downgrade our fake friends to acquaintances. What I mean by that is that a lot more of our friends on Facebook are actually acquaintances. So you can do that one at a time, or I'm going to give you a tool to do that. Facebook.com/friends/organize. And what it'll do is it will display for you all the people you haven't liked, shared, or commented in the last 6 months, and vice versa. And then you can downgrade them to acquaintances in bulk, right? Ooh, you're like, finally, something useful, right? So you can start downgrading people based on this. So you can do that. It's pretty effective. Yes?
Do they get noticed?
No, they don't get a notification of that. Couple of things. Remember I told you about Twitter lists? Facebook lists are even more important. If there's a bombing today in Atlanta, I will be able to pull up 30 journalists in Atlanta in 5 seconds. Will you be able to do that? And the only way to do that is to be better at lists. Who here is good at their Facebook lists? Raise your hand if you are. I'm from India, so I like outsourcing, right? So these are the people based in Seattle. Raise your hands again. Power list people. Talk to them. Ask them for, Moni is one of them, right? So you should have a list called colleagues. You should have a list called bosses. You should have a list called friends, family, real friends. And you should have one called creepy cousins. Why? Because if you don't accept the cousin's friend request, like grandma will be mad at Thanksgiving, right? You didn't accept Johnny's friend request, so you accept it. But you put him under creepy cousins so that he doesn't have to see every photo. But here's a trick. He will never know, except under 2 circumstances. If he's standing behind you, or if you use the internal system to email all your creepy cousins. It'll say, Dear Creepy Cousins. So what is the trick for that, guys? The trick is you change it to favorite cousins, because all creepy cousins think they are, in fact, your favorite cousins. So please do that. And, well, maybe this is only a problem I have. Maybe you guys don't have this problem. But think about that when you're doing this. If you're a business, by the way, the timeline is your friend. You can use it to tell a story about your business. Go to the New York Times page, and you'll see with one click you can go all the way back to 1851 when the Times was founded. It's pretty cool stuff that you can see in there. So I encourage you to do that. Another thing that's going to happen on Facebook, which is irritating, is, you know this side ticker here? It's about to get even worse. How is it going to get more irritating? They're going to put ads into that, right? Oh, no, that's right. Hey, Mr. Zuckerberg's got to eat, right? Questions or comments? By the way, check out his Facebook page. It's kind of interesting. It's facebook.com/Zuck. If you want to see like his entire life story, you can see that in there if you go in. And we have almost the same number of followers on Facebook. You can see his number is there, 17 million. And you can see how he does that. And by the way, that's the most famous dog on Facebook. His name is Beast. That's right. He has his own page and everything on there. Let me give you another tip for the journalists in the room. You should be all on a list called social. If you're a social journalist, you should be on a list called social journalism. 1,800 of us, including Moni, are on there. And it was started by a great journalist named Craig Canally at the Huffington Post. His Twitter handle is ccanal. C-Canal. Follow him on Twitter and tell him we're talking about him. Name check him. If you ever want to pitch a post for the Huffington Post, he's the guy.
He's really, really, really amazing.
He's really, quote Moni, not me, and say he's really amazing so that he can know that. And he just uses it so well. And this is an example where the numbers don't mean anything on Twitter and Facebook, all these numbers, right? So you see 18,000 followers, but we've seen people with 100,000, 300,000 followers, and you say, is he less important? Not at all. It's the quality of the people following you that's more important. So I want to just take a couple of Facebook questions, and then we got to move on. We got to wrap this up. We have a lot of things to quickly go through. Any Facebook questions? No? Yes? Yep. That's true. That's one of the things we have to accept about Facebook. But I also want to give you you're absolutely right. Most people won't see it, right? Because the algorithm determines that. But sorry, on Facebook, if you go to facebook.com, I just want to show you my business page where I post, where we share lots of Facebook, technology tips on here. And let me just show you this. So it's called facebook.com/Sreetips. I hope you will like the page. But please don't be that person. That person who you get an email saying, John Smith would like you to become a fan of John Smith. You ever get those? Very irritating. Don't do that. But here is the power of Facebook. I have 6,500 likes, but they have 3.3 million friends. You see that? So this is not Twitter. This is on Facebook. How many are talking about it? What is your total reach? It will never, Moni, be like 100,000 people, but to reach 2,000 people a week on your content is not bad, is the way I look at it. So look at this, bit.ly.com/Sreepint. Sree, P-I-N-T, will take you to this page, which is my article about 6 things I learned from 6 days on Pinterest, as the only man on Pinterest, by the way. Read this article yourself. We're out of time, but we're running out of time. The URL is bit.ly/Sreepint, P-I-N-T. But if you go to bit.ly/Sreepin, you're about to see something much better than that article. And this is an article I wrote about a friend of mine named @NewYorkBob, all spelled out, New York Bob. He had 400 followers on Twitter. And so 400 followers, you'll say not important, not useful, he should quit social media. He's an old-fashioned journalist. He's a technology journalist, but old school tech like PC Magazine stuff. And now look what he is doing now. He has 400 followers on Twitter. And if you go to bit.ly/Sreepin, look at that number. He has 1.2 million followers on Pinterest. Wow, right? So what does that tell you? If you're unsuccessful on one thing, you might be more successful on another. And 400 is not unsuccessful, right? He was able to do that. How did he do it? Read that story, bit.ly/Sreepin. I have this idea that every post would have like a bit.ly link after that, so you can remember. Every post would have a hashtag after that. The URL, like it's nice on CNET, they do a good job of putting the follow button right there, but you can imagine that could be something you do. So tell @NewYorkBob that we're talking about him here. Read his awesome Pinterest tips. Now, tweet him when you don't need him, or when your company says, we need to get on Pinterest. Don't let the first time he hears from you be an ask. So we talked about. So I tell people, don't be an ask, right? Okay, moving on. Very quickly here, the next thing I want to do is spend a couple of minutes just very quickly on LinkedIn. And I find that we are not using LinkedIn properly. It is underappreciated and underused as a reporting tool. You heard Hansen. That was like very important thing he said today. He's using LinkedIn. He's chosen to optimize himself on LinkedIn over Twitter and Facebook, right? And that's really cool and very important. You're seeing up on the right the first ever spam I've gotten on LinkedIn. This guy, Williams Fryer, is like a Nigerian prince or the equivalent of that. But a couple of things that we're not doing on LinkedIn enough is the section where the advanced search is so useful. What you can do is not only find people in your network, but you can find people for a story who used to be at the job of the person you're trying to find out. What do I mean by that? You're a reporter and you're interviewing the new CFO of Amazon. That's great. But what you can do is go in and find people all the previous CFOs of Amazon, their lips are going to be looser than anybody else at the company, right? And you can talk to them. That's a wonderful little way of connecting and finding people. CNN producer told me she found an NGO human rights lawyer in Saudi Arabia and put her on the air in 30 minutes. Would never have found her on Facebook, never have found her on Twitter, found her on LinkedIn. So I encourage you to use this. The other thing is on LinkedIn is the section here when you're looking at your own profile, and you should be constantly editing yourself and your Twitter and Facebook and everything else. If you go under your college, let's see here, let me just come down, under education, by the way, let me just say one thing. I hate this. It's awful, right? It's like all the things that you're not good at, they will tell you, or the things you're asking for, they will not give you credit. They mean well, but it's a total waste of time. And it's like, it's confusing because there's already one totally confusing thing on LinkedIn. What is that? Recommendations, right? And now they have this. How many of you are on LinkedIn, by the way? Look around you. How many of you know what you're doing? See the hands fall? Look, look, look. People turn into Indian dancers, right? They're going like this, right? And that's what happens. This is what happens. So this doesn't help in any way. But LinkedIn is a terrific tool. So here's a cool thing you may not have seen. If I click Columbia Journalism School, I click on that, and it pulls up this new part of LinkedIn called Alumni. And now look at this. 7 of my classmates work at Bloomberg. 187 of them are in media and communication. You're starting to do creative things with this. Find people, change schools, include them. Look at all the stuff you can do. Does everybody see why this is useful? When you're job hunting or helping your cousin or somebody, this is a very cool tool. So it's under college, linkedin.com/college/alumni. So you can check that out. Questions or comments? Yes? No, this is there on everything I've showed you is on the regular account. But you'll notice that I have a paid account. What is LinkedIn? How does LinkedIn give every journalist a free paid account? How many of you have got this from LinkedIn? So there's a woman on LinkedIn. There are 2 women on LinkedIn. I'm sorry, on Twitter, you should know, who both work for LinkedIn. One is Yumi Wilson. Tell her we're talking about her at Yumi Wilson, Y-U-M-I Wilson. She's at San Francisco State University, and she's community manager for LinkedIn. And the other person is at Crystal Canfield, K-R-I-S-T-A, K-R-I-S-T-A Canfield. All right? And both of them, you follow them and tell them we're talking about you here. They both run a list called LinkedIn for Journalists. All of you should join it. Join it, and then once a month, they hold free LinkedIn seminars. If you attend the whole 30-minute seminar, which will be so useful, much more useful than tonight, then they will give you a free account for 1 year. Freelancers are welcome, and they are encouraged to use it. Okay? So please do that. How many of you are going to do all those steps? Yeah, like, oh, there's a lot of work. Even something free, even something useful, you will not do it. I have full faith you will not. I'm kidding. All right. Let's keep going. Next thing I want to show you, we don't have time for more of LinkedIn, but we're going to move on to Muckrack. How many of you are on Muckrack? Everybody should be on Muckrack and know about this. Muckrack is a fantastic tool for journalists and for PR people. I know there are PR people in the room and journalists. So I'm just going to show you a couple of things on here. Any journalist can create a free account. It's all free for journalists, and PR people pay for it. But it changes the journalist-source PR relationship. So I'm just going to go in here and log in. What is the most common password in the world, folks? Password. Yeah, that is not my password, but yes, it is just password. But I'm just going to log in here. And what it's going to do, if this works, let it come up, is this such a useful tool. Look at this. We're trending here. Hanson, I'm sorry. Could you take? Well, let me just take my own. I'll take my own picture. I'll just take my own picture here. But what is this, folks? This is only trending among journalists. 15,000 journalists in the world, and we're trending on it right now. Right? How do we do that? We're 200 people in a room. We do that by grabbing all those people, being interesting, getting our content out. So Muckrack is a listing of 15,000 journalists. If you're not on it, you should be. But look what you can do. You can go in here. Let's just go under the Seattle. You just go in here under Seattle Times. So you go in here and you type in Seattle Times. Oops, I don't know if I spelled Seattle right. Times. And you hit search, right? And then look what it does for you. Come on. All right, here we go. This is showing me various people in Seattle. This is not just the Seattle Times, but let's see here. It's one word, media outlet, sorry. And it's also not Seattle Time for sure, right? So jump to media outlet, I'm sorry. Okay, Seattle, let's see, try it again. There we go, Seattle Times. Okay, so when you go on here, look at this. This is a list of the most active on the Seattle Times and the most followed on the Seattle Times. Look, that's the list. Do you know these people? Right? These are famous people in Seattle. And this is a list of everybody at the Seattle Times who's on Twitter. Instant list. And look at by beat. Really useful. All the stories, these are the stories that are trending within the Seattle Times today. And these are all the tweets that people have sent today in the Seattle Times. So you can go and look at that. The other thing you can do is by beat. So I can go in here and I want to do, let's say, business and finance. Look at this. Everybody who is tweeting business and finance right now. And what are the stories that people are talking about? Look at that, right? You can see what people are talking about. Everybody understand that? Yep. And then the other thing you can do on this is create lists. And like foreign journalists in India, online education, and then you can edit or read them. If you're a PR person, every journalist should go in here and create what's called a muckrack portfolio, where your best stories are listed, and I have done that. And you tell people how you want to be pitched. And I find that the pitches I get on this are fantastic. These are what I want to hear. They're timely, they're accurate, they're what I want. So you go in here and you can see my various pitches, what I cover. Like, it's very direct, what I want to hear from. I never get spam on here from this, right? And so if you're a PR person, you should get this. If you're a journalist, you should get it, and it's called Muckrack. And then they have a new tool within Muckrack that I love and that you will love. It's called Who Shared My Link? So you go in here and you take one of your stories, right, that you have done. Let me just go in here and bit.ly/Sreepin. You remember that? So I'm going to take that story, copy it, and you're going to do this every day from now on and be really irritating. Sorry. So you go in here. Copy, and then go back to Muckrack/Who Shared My Link. Muckrack/Who Shared My Link. Count shares. Watch this. So cool. I get excited too easily, people. 936 social media shares for this. Look at that numbers. It adds it up, and it shows you 7 journalists who shared this link right now. Does everybody see why that's useful? And you can keep track of it and save it and do all kinds of things with that. So it's muckrack.com/Who Shared My Link. Questions from anybody about this? There's a little thing here called where you have a portfolio, so you can save the story. So you can do that. So you'll check that out, join it, and it says humble brag that you got 936 shares on your story. So that's a term you might know. All right, so we're ready to wrap up here with a couple of things. Let me first go. I'm going to do social media, what I call sustainable social media. How do you do this and keep your day job and keep your family? Second, I'm going to do social media and tools that you need to use. These are all very quick. And finally, my success formula. So first thing, I do want to say one thing about Google+. He said the same thing, that even if you're not finding traction on Google+, please create an account and please share your most important items on Google+, because if nobody's reading it, one thing is reading it. Who? Google, right? So you must share your most important content on Google+. Other people have found great traction with it. If you have found traction, use it. Even if you haven't found traction, once a day or once a week, whenever you do an important story, post it on there, because you want that Google juice, right? Next, I'm going to just go back to my slides to just show you the stuff so you can see there's a lot of stuff we didn't talk about that you can check out on Google+. Look at this. Anybody know this airline? It's a mystery. You can check it out. One tool I want you to know about, Rebel Mouse. Anybody using this? It is a very important new social media tool. What it does is it aggregates all your social media in one place. So you have this one tool, and you can post and stick things up, and it works very well. So you can check out mine, Rebel Mouse/3. And what Hansen said, when you're job hunting, people are going to start looking at your Rebel Mouse account to see all your social media in one place, your Instagram, your pieces. And then look at this. This is from June, but I've pinned it to my wall so that people see this article, 25 smartest pieces of advice from women who started their own businesses. So you can think of that, right? So we looked at this. Sorry, just moving along here to all right. Here, talk about changing your media diet. All of you are reading Mashable. All of you are reading Read Right, Life Hacker. There's so many. We could just keep going on and on. Business Insider. The great thing is you don't have to go to all of these. Get one once a day emails from all of them, right? You should all do that. One thing we underestimate, the power of email and the power of the email newsletter. How many of your organizations have email newsletters? All of you should have them and fight to be on that list every day. Now let's talk about sustainable social media. How do you do this and keep a day job? How do you do this and keep your family? Well, one is to use Hootsuite. How many Hootsuite users in the house? I pay $5 extra because I love it so much. How many TweetDeck users in the house? TweetDeck users are great-looking people. I say that because I don't use it and I don't want them to like jump me in the alley, right there. But in the last week, something bad has happened on TweetDeck, which is owned by Twitter. What is the bad thing that's happened? They're stopping support for mobile, right? And that's a problem. Why? They want, I think, Moni, what do you think it is? They want to go on Twitter.com itself, I think. I'm sorry?
They want the native app.
They want the native app instead. Nutshell Mail, how many of you are using that? It will change your life. Neil's using it, and Nutshell Mail gets all your social media alerts in one email once a day. Very cool when you're on vacation. I presume none of you vacation like I do, right? Teaching workshops at the time. Try Twilert. Anybody here using Twilert? Once a day, all the tweets that you want with your mention on it. And then Bliss Control helps you keep up with all the changes. One more tool before we go to my success formula. I want to give a big, big shout out to @BurtHerman, BurtHerman. Who is that? Anybody know? He's changing journalism because he created a tool called Storify, right? I love Storify because what it does is I'm going to go home and Storify this, right? I already took all your best tweets and I made a Storify out of it, and I'm going to continue to do it. I'll tweet it tomorrow. But here's an important moment that Storify represents. Storify is the first app that works better than the website in producing a product. What I mean by that is I prefer to make my Storifys on my iPad than I do on making it on the website because it's so easy. You could sit there and make dozens of, throw them together beautifully. If you're a PR person, if you're in business, you want to know about Storify. Part of the problem with social media, everything is ephemeral. Make it permanent by printing stuff out, making collections, and making @Storify. And tell Bert we're talking about him in this class. He's an AP journalist who reinvented himself in Silicon Valley. But now we're ready for the social media success formula. This is a formula that will tell you how to get more followers, how to be more successful on social media. So we're going to pretend that we're in church on Sunday. Okay? Catholic church on Sunday, led by a Hindu priest. Weird church, but that's probably like Sreeattle church, right? So are you ready to say these words with me? Are you ready? Are you ready? Yes! All right. So we're going to be loud and clear, and you're going to pull out your phones, and you're going to document this, and the gentleman running the camera, Scott's going to like pan so he can capture everybody here. Everybody pull out your phones, put it in your hands, pull out your iPads, pull out your Android, and you're going to take pictures of this. And this is the social media success formula that we have been waiting for. And this is going to be so important. It's a series of words, right? We're going to say the words together because that's how we do this here, right? It starts with the word helpful, and you're going to be really loud as you do this. And you have a camera. You'll take a picture of all of them taking a picture of us. Okay, ready? Here we go. It starts with the word helpful. Ready? And helpful. Useful. Can't hear you. Louder. Sing it, sister. Hallelujah. Louder. Sing it, sister. Sing it louder. I can't hear you. Amen. That's how you do a social media success formula. Now let's think very, very quickly here. All your posts doesn't have to be all of these things all the time, but all of your posts have to be some of these all the time. Does that make sense to everybody? Right? But if you look at this very closely, this is not a social media success formula. This is a media success formula, right? Think about the magazines you love. They're this. The TV shows you love. They're this. The bloggers you love. They are this. And finally, Somebody else could look at this and say, Sri, this is not a social media success formula or a media success formula. This is a life success formula, right? So I want you to have more of this content and fewer shoes and less of what you ate, unless you're a food blogger and are amazing. So let me leave you with a couple of final thoughts. I'll stick around for some Q&A, and then I guess some of us are going to go get some food afterwards. Where are we going?
Oh, I think we'll just go down to the Ram at U Village. That's probably what's open right now.
All right. Okay. But so if you want to get a head start, you can. Otherwise, if you have questions, we can chat up here as well. So a couple of closing thoughts. The first is all of you should follow at Mark S. Lucky, L-U-C-K-I-E. You all know who he is. He's the former innovations editor of the Washington Post, who's the manager. He's Vadim's equivalent at Twitter. Mark S. Lucky, L-U-C-K-I-E. And he tweets terrific stuff. And he says, tweet more mentions, use more mentions and fewer links, and you will get more followers. He doesn't say never tweet links, but he says do more mentions, and you'll get more followers. Why? Because there's a good chance that one person will follow you, right? Follow a woman named @EricaAmerica. @EricaAmerica. She's @Erica. That's her Twitter handle. She's Erica Anderson of Twitter. And she had a wonderful line. She said, if you're good in real life, you can be great on Twitter. If you're good in real life, you can be great on Twitter. If you're great in real life, I believe, you can be awesome on Twitter. But the converse is also true. If you're bad in real life, you will be awful on Twitter, right? So what we build at Columbia Journalism School are journalists that we call tradigital journalists. Traditional journalists with a digital overlay. That means people who understand the value of journalism, but know all these new tools, engagement, et cetera. That's exactly what Hansen is and what he has done here, and he builds here as well. But whatever industry you're in, be a tradigital version of that person, of that industry, and you will succeed. The other thing that I've been thinking about a lot is what someone said to me, that the scarcest resource of the 21st century is not time, not money, but human attention. And you don't need to be Gawker or be the Seattle Times or be the biggest thing around to be successful. You just need to know how to get a sliver of that attention to be in business. But everyone who doesn't know how to get human attention is going to go out of business. And you guys have given me 3.5 hours of your attention, which is an incredible gift. I'd like to, all of you, put your hands together for HRH Media. Give them a hand. Let's thank Moni Guzman, @Moni Guzman. Please follow her. And I want you to remember that if you got more than $10 worth of value tonight, which I think did all of you do that? Yes? That I hope you will support, and maybe we can even do a basket and you can put money in there like church. Hey, we're a church. I don't think we'll do that, but please donate to these folks at AHA, SPJ Washington, Saja HQ. Seattle Times doesn't need your money, and ComLead, and do that. And I just want to say 2 words, everybody. Thank you very much. Bye.
And we have to, I'd say 30 seconds. We'll have to vacate this room because we only had it till 9:30. So if you want to talk to Sri, we can talk to him outside. I think my students and my alumni will, if they had a newspaper, tomorrow's headline would be "Finally Something Useful." So Sri, thank you for that. It was a mixture of preacher and Wolf Blitzer.
Oh.
And thank you for your generosity. Your generosity to your students, to us, your time. He did this for free because he really believes in this. So thank you so much, Sri. We really are lucky to have you in our
Thank
community.
you, everybody, and thanks. Come and get a Hershey Kiss if you'd like one. I get to keep the Theo. Hey.